Lately, a small town in Guangdong has been blowing up all over the internet. It started when the local government tried to kill a centuries-old tradition called You Shen, the Deity Parade, by slapping it with an official ban right before the Lunar New Year. But man, did that plan backfire. Instead of staying home, tens of thousands of people flooded the streets in a massive show of defiance. The roar of firecrackers didn't stop for a single second all night long, and fireworks lit up every corner of the city's sky. In the end, the city god, Cheng Huang-ye, made his appearance right on schedule, parading through the city before thousands of cheering eyes. What might look like a petty squabble over firecracker permits is actually something much deeper than just a clash over local customs. For many watching this unfold, the whole event feels less like a protest and more like a signal. A city, standing tall amidst thick clouds of gunpowder smoke and the boom of firecrackers, openly defying the powers that be. And it's not just one town. More and more people across China are finally waking up and breaking their silence. We're seeing everything from tens of thousands hitting the streets in Lufeng, Guangdong, to fearless young people now openly trashing the CCP and Xi Jinping all over the internet. It's feeding into a wave of protests and demands for basic rights that are popping up more and more across the country. This is a deep-seated rage that's been bottled up by the Chinese people for years, and now it's finally starting to bubble over and break the surface. One by one, the fear is fading. One by one, people are finding the courage to speak their minds. And one by one, they are starting to push back in the open. It leads to one big question. With more and more people refusing to stay silent, is China standing on the eve of a massive shift? Today we're going to dive deep into what's really going on. Hey guys, Sean here, and welcome back. Today we're looking at a side of China you won't see in the official news, a growing defiance that's spreading from small-town festivals to the digital front lines. People are tired of being told when to pray, how to celebrate, and what to think. We're peeling back the layers on this nationwide tension because you never know how deep this hole goes. In Lufeng, Guangdong, every New Year celebration has one specific moment that gets everyone's blood pumping: the You Shen tradition, or the Deity Parade. This isn't just some average temple festival, it's a massive street party that involves almost the entire town. As the deity's sedan chair slowly winds through the streets, locals light up piles of firecrackers and fireworks they've been prepping for weeks. Huge mounds of crackers explode one after another on the ground. Smoke towers into the sky, sparks fly in every direction, and the streets get completely swallowed by gunpowder haze and a deafening roar. To anyone seeing it for the first time, it's a shock to the system. It looks like a small-scale war zone. But for the people of Lufeng, this is the ultimate symbol of good luck. The louder the bang and the brighter the fireworks, the more prosperous the coming year will be. But as 2026 rolled in, this deep-rooted tradition hit a dead end. The local government, completely ignoring how the people felt, decided to force through a firecracker ban, making it illegal to light anything during the You Shen parade. For many in Lufeng, this rule was basically ripping the soul out of the entire celebration. The result? An unexpected wave of resistance. And it was the youth who lit the first spark of defiance. According to a video posted by an X user yesterday, the first wave of young people started moving on the night of March 5th. Right in the heart of the city, a few groups began openly setting off firecrackers and fireworks, directly challenging the government's official ban. Flashes of light ripped through the darkness, and the booms echoed against the city buildings like an announcement: the gods' float isn't moving an inch in silence. It didn't take long for the police to arrive and haul off a few of the young men. But instead of cooling things down, this heavy-handed move just poured gasoline on the fire. In the early hours of March 6th, a young man was cornered by several Chengguan urban management officers while lighting firecrackers. But just as they tried to drag him away, the surrounding crowd suddenly exploded. Within seconds, over 100 people swarmed the scene, pinning the officers in. The vibe turned intense. You had people recording on their phones, others shouting at the top of their lungs, and a front line of citizens literally putting their bodies between the officers and the young man. What started as a small scuffle quickly became the talk of the town. Then came the night of March 6th, the most critical night of the festival, the eve of the main event, the grand procession of the city god, Chenghuang Ye. The authorities could clearly feel they were losing control. In a desperate move, they deployed hundreds of police officers to the city center with one single goal: shut down any firecrackers during the You Shen procession at all costs. But the youth of Lufeng didn't flinch. They chose to fight back. Many of them hopped on electric scooters with piles of fireworks and crackers strapped to the back seats, speeding toward the Chenghuang Temple in the city center. In the dead of night, those rows of scooters weaving through the streets looked like streaks of fire. By the early hours of March 7th, the entire city of Lufeng seemed to wake up to a thunderous bombardment. Things reached a boiling point. Those scooters kept maneuvering through the streets, lighting fuses on the move. Continuous explosions hit the pavement, while flashes of fire and thick clouds of smoke turned the dark night into a strobe light of orange and white. The police started making arrests right there on the street, but as they tried to drag several young men away, the atmosphere hit a breaking point. People nearby swarmed in, blocking the police cars so they couldn't leave. Some dragged road barriers to close off the street, others stood right in front of the police cars' hoods, and a mob completely surrounded the vehicles until they couldn't move an inch. It was a chaotic scene of shoving, shouting matches, and raw anger, a direct confrontation between the people and the law in the middle of the night. Videos spreading across the internet show the main streets of Lufeng turned into a sea of people that night. The roads were stained red with spent firecracker paper, and a thick smog hung heavy in the air. In the crowd, you could see people giving instructions, others cutting through the mass on motorbikes, and many raising their hands, calling for the people behind them to keep pushing forward. Police cars could only crawl through the sea of people who were recording everything on their phones. Some netizens estimated the crowd hit over 10,000 people, and the firecrackers just kept roaring all night long. Finally, at 8 a.m. on March 7th, the massive gates of the Chenghuang Temple swung open. Amidst the smoke and the thunderous bangs, the statue of the city god was carried out to begin its parade through the city. The firecrackers roared again. It was as if the city had finally found the rhythm it had known for centuries. So far, the local government hasn't released any official statement about the protests. There's been no word on how many were detained or what kind of charges they might face. This spontaneous resistance quickly went viral. Netizens flooded the comments with praise. Guangdong people are incredibly united. Only by standing together can we protect our rights. And this is the true hero spirit of Lufeng. Many gave a thumbs up to the youth, feeling relieved that traditional Chinese culture is still very much alive and being passed down by the younger generation. Going even further, many started aiming sharp criticism at the authorities. They felt these kinds of bans are completely out of touch with the people, and they openly backed the citizens of Lufeng for resisting policies that have clearly lost the heart of the people. Other netizens were even more blunt. Those officials who just want to show off in Lufeng are total clowns. They forgot how much grit and backbone the people here have. Right now, anywhere in China, resistance is born from the courage of the locals themselves. They are no longer willing to just live under pressure and stay quiet. This was a collective explosion of years of pent-up frustration. The principle is simple. As long as the authorities ban something, that's exactly what we're going to do. For many observers, what happened in Lufeng wasn't just about firecrackers. It looked more like a battle for the dignity of tradition and the voice of the people. Between the bangs and the flashes of light, the whole city sent a message. There are some traditions you just can't erase with an official order. You Shen, or the Deity Parade, is a widespread tradition along the eastern coast of Guangdong, especially in places like Chaoshan, Lufeng, and Chaozhou. Usually held during the Lunar New Year or major temple festivals, it's one of the most important rituals for the locals. These parades are usually organized by temples or local clans. On the big day, the deity statues are carried out to parade through the streets, receiving offerings along the way. Everywhere the god passes, people welcome them with a massive display of firecrackers. This is the heritage passed down from their ancestors. But the ear-splitting roar in Lufeng that night might be more than just the echo of a local protest. It feels like a symbol. As more people in China refuse to bow their heads, voices that have been suppressed are starting to pop up in every corner. From a small town fighting for its culture to waves of protests for rights across the country, people are starting to realize that instead of sitting around waiting for the end, it's better to stand up and take action. When the people's anger boils over and awareness wakes up, could it be that China is truly on the brink of a massive change? Many people in China are finally, truly, waking up. They've torn down the wall of fear and are starting to scream out all the frustrations and demands they've kept bottled up for years, longing for the day when freedom finally arrives. Recently, a video of a young man calling himself Guo Xiao Gui went viral on TikTok. In the video, he doesn't hold back calling the CCP a bandit organization and a slaughterer of its own people. He even goes after the top man, Xi Jinping, calling him a soulless, devilish dictator. With absolute conviction, he demands freedom and democracy. So far, the video has racked up at least 160,000 views and sparked thousands of comments from netizens. Some netizens even joked that his brutal honesty was a breath of fresh air, because what he shouted out felt like the collective scream of a Chinese public that's been silenced for too long.
习近平这个大傻逼，脑子进死了还是咋的啊？有那么多钱摆在眼前不赚，非要搞什么闭关。
Another netizen vented their rage in the rawest way possible. Is Xi Jinping's brain short-circuited? How can you ignore so many economic chances just to double down on isolationist policies? Back then, even Deng Xiaoping knew how to admire American progress. He joined the WTO and at least pretended to do reform and opening up. But Xi Jinping is a fool who's fighting the tide of history. He's dragging China straight into the abyss. You communist bandits, you're corrupt. You murder your own people. Remember June 4th, 1989, when you crushed the students? You spy on ordinary citizens and turned China into a giant prison, built concentration camps in Xinjiang, and crushed Hong Kong. You flooded Hong Kong's youth with tear gas, leaving many to question the reality behind one country, two systems. And as the pandemic swept across the globe, critics began pointing at the early decisions that may have shaped its global impact. Xi Jinping, your leadership has faced growing accusations of tightening control and centralizing power. Some argue that these choices have not only reshaped a nation, but altered the course of millions of lives. You communists are nothing more than a pile of rotting, stinking garbage. Sooner or later, the people will topple you and toss you into the trash heap of history. You are traitors to the nation. Today, we're ripping the mask off these communist bastards, especially that power-mad Xi Jinping. The elites are busy building mansions, keeping mistresses, and hoarding gold. From day one until now, communist history has been nothing but a history of massacres, corruption, and national betrayal. You're a bunch of hypocrites who are lower than animals. You say serve the people with your lips, but you only serve yourselves and your masters. Ever since Xi took power, he's been going backward. With his common prosperity slogan, he's just robbing the poor to feed the elite, killing off private companies in the process. Friends, wake up. We need freedom. We need democracy. Xi Jinping has to go. The CCP must be dissolved. Only without the communists will there be a new China. Let's move, topple them, and welcome the dawn of democracy. On top of that, a young man from Fushun, Liaoning, known as Kui Heng, shared a video on social media expressing strong criticism toward the ruling party and its leadership. He claimed that he had been detained by local authorities for around 20 days due to his involvement in public demonstrations in late 2022, as well as his support for political reform. Reports suggest that he has since left the country and is currently seeking refuge in Thailand. A blind netizen recorded a video cursing Xi Jinping and the CCP, wishing for their immediate collapse. He stressed, "The only way they'll fear you is if you keep fighting. The more you kneel, the more they'll treat you like someone easy to crush. Because I trash talk them every day, the local police won't stop calling me to pressure me." Looking back at his bitter life, this netizen, You Shen, put it bluntly, "I'm the generation hit by the one-child policy. I'm the generation screwed by housing reforms. I'm the one being forced to work longer before I can retire." The joke is, we're also the same generation being begged to have a second kid. We're the ones told to buy houses, but then blocked when we actually want to sell them. The burden the CCP has placed on the people's shoulders is just too much. From the hukou residency system and birth permits to professional titles, personal files, family backgrounds, and even political status. The Chinese people have eyes, but they've been made to feel blind. They have brains, but they've been made powerless to think until they've forgotten how to fight back. This has allowed the parasites and cancers living off the sweat of the common people to grow too large to remove until the people start feeling like the parasite is a part of themselves. That is the true, terrifying curse. A netizen named Sun Jiahao shared a message filled with frustration and longing, describing the current state of the country as deeply concerning. He expressed hope that one day, greater freedom and democratic ideals might find their place across the nation. Meanwhile, Zhou Xian voiced sharp criticism toward the ruling party, urging people to become more aware of their rights and to push for meaningful change. His message reflected a growing desire among some voices for a more open and transparent future. When the CCP's lies can no longer deceive the public, and more people in China start to see the sheer rot within the system, that's when you know China is truly standing on the brink of a massive shift. If you found this valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share this video, and turn on the notifications so we can keep tracking these ripples as they happen. Let's keep a clear head as the times change, and together, we'll continue to uncover the truths they've worked so hard to hide. If you're still watching this, maybe you're looking for the same thing I am.